What you always have to remember, a lack of clarity equals inaction.
Totally hitting the nail on the head.
Just speak to people and they will tell you what they want. Your responsibility as a business owner is to provide clarity and direction.
Great recommendation there.
We have Michael Beavis on the hot seat session. Michael, welcome to the session. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got into coaching.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on here today. So again, I'm Michael Beavis. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life and been coaching and supporting entrepreneurs for the better part of 2 decades now. And yeah, what I primarily focus on in my current practice is to help businesses grow and scale into middle market category.
Got it. Got it. Very cool. Tell me a little bit about how you got to that point where you're helping them in middle market category.
Yeah, so if you look at the journey of most typical entrepreneurs, there's a lot of supports in the beginning. So think like accelerators and pitch competitions and those kinds of things, mentorship. There's a lot of support in that space. Not a lot of support post accelerator phase. And so until you get into middle market category, it's often difficult for businesses to find the resources that they need. So think like capital resources from financing from banks and later stage investor financing. And so we created something that kind of helps those businesses post accelerator. So there's 2.3 million businesses in the United States here alone that kind of fall into that category. And it's kind of commonly known in the entrepreneurial journey as the valley of death. And so we focus on helping them stay out of the valley of death and kind of scale past that stage so that they can get to the resources that they need.
Awesome niche. Very cool niche. Okay, so tell me, give me a bit of a snapshot of the business. How long have you been at it? What's been working? What hasn't been? Tell me a little bit about, if you had clarity on one particular aspect, one question that would move the needle, as well. So give me a snapshot of the business.
Yeah, so the business is actually going very well. So, I've been part of your programming here for almost a year now, I think, and, implementing a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, especially with joint ventures and partnership opportunities. Tons of interest in what we do. We recently kind of pivoted our model to offer it in more of an online asynchronous format while at the same time building cohorts. So there's a lot of interest there, and it's easy for us to now deliver it in a broader capacity. Think of it from the idea of our own business scaling to reach more of those businesses, and we've reduced the cost significantly, so it's easy for them to access it now. Where we're having a ton of success and traction is those joint venture partners. So a couple of weeks ago, as an example, I got to speak in front of an audience of over 100 accelerators from around the world that are working with businesses at the stage or just before the stage we want to reach them. And the partnership opportunities there could potentially yield us as many as 100,000 clients. So
Wow.
just because collectively of the audience that they work with, obviously we're not going to get that many, but it's a nice pool for us to go into and talk to businesses that are at the right stage for us and attentive audience there. So the partnerships are going well in that space.
Wild. Wild. All right. So what do you want to work on the hot seat today?
I think because the approach is kind of pivoted a little bit. So again, we're working with these joint venture partners. We're not charging the partnership. In some cases, there's an opportunity to kind of do a revenue split or something along those lines. So the incentive piece is kind of clear. What I'm trying to figure out is the easiest way to kind of close that time or condense the time to close, if you think of it from that perspective. So again, spending money, going to these events, speaking engagements, getting a lot of engagement and follow up, but it still need to get those partners across the finish line to say, yes, okay, here's how it's going to work, and here's 20 to 50 businesses that we're going to put into your programming in that capacity. So just trying to figure out the best kind of flow, if you will, to really kind of be more streamlined in that closing process.
All right. So there are two things that you brought up, right? One is the speed of closing. The second is, a streamlined process that's just repetitive.
Yeah.
So tell me where the biggest challenges are. Or actually, forget that. Tell me what's happening right now. What's your experience of what's going on?
Yeah, so as an example, let's just use the example from 2 weeks ago. I was in New York speaking at this event, approximately 100 people there, already gone through the list and had one-on-one follow-up phone calls with more than half of them just in that time frame. And of say those 50 phone calls, 10 of them have said we definitely want to do something. But now it's like, great, they want to do something. What's the next piece of that? So I just need to get better and more refined at really getting consistent with that approach.
So, quick question then. It's interesting that they said that they want to do something, which would
Mhm.
indicate to me, Michael, that the next pathway for them to take is not clear for them. Is that the case?
Correct. Yeah. And I think you're right on that. I think part of the reason why that is because how some of those groups are funded themselves, as an operating business is different. Each one is different. So sometimes it's a state funded program. So they have an annual operating budget that they're provided through a government agency kind of thing. And some are self-funded and their operating expenses come from either returns they're getting from the companies that they're working with or investors that they're working with. And so I think that's part of the issue is I think each one's a little bit different as far as how they're funded. So them figuring out how to fund what kind of partnership they want to do with us is where it gets tricky.
So, okay, so let's kind of zoom out and look more from a mindset perspective, okay?
Sure.
So, on a mindset perspective, what you always have to remember is that a lack of clarity equals inaction. And that is across the board with anything that you do, particularly when it comes to joint venture partnerships, when it comes to closing clients, whatever that is. But a lack of clarity will lead to inaction. So interest is fine, right? But clarity is the thing which actually closes the deal. So if we go into this, what I'm hearing you say kind of between the lines here is the joint venture partners that are interested lack the clarity to make a decision to move forward,
I
right?
would agree with that. Sure.
Okay.
Yep. Mhm.
Now, then my question is, your responsibility as a business owner is almost always, I would say the majority of what you do as a business owner is to provide clarity and direction on every level of the business, right? Clarity and direction to the employees, clarity and direction to the clients, clarity and direction to the offers, clarity and direction to the partners, right? Your job as the business owner, Michael, is clarity and direction. So in this case, if the partner doesn't have clarity and direction, the finger points back at yourself, right? That you
Sure.
haven't provided that
Yep.
for them. So we have to look into what opportunities actually exist that you said, okay, they want to do something. What are you telling them they can do? Or is there nothing there right now?
Yeah, I think you're totally hitting the nail on the head, and I think part of the reason why the clarity is not yet there for me is this is a fairly new approach, right? Again, the pivot to kind of an online offering in mass versus kind of the one-to-one coaching, small cohort, small group setup. So I think you're right there on that clarity piece of that. What I want them to do is I want them to go to their existing audience and identify 20 to 50 businesses in their existing portfolio that say, these are the companies we want you to work with, Michael, and you know, let's get a contract in place because we'll pay for it. Because a lot of times it's investors that have investments in these portfolio companies and they want to see them progress.
Got it. So what you want, I'm just going to repeat this back, is
Yeah,
you want these partners to go to their existing audience to find 10 to 20 of that audience to become your clients.
correct.
Okay. So then the interesting thing becomes here is, are they actually joint venture partners anymore? Because there was a nuance that you mentioned right at the end, which was they are going to pay for these 10 to 20 people. So that now changes the way that we need to look at them, right? Because they're no longer joint venture partners, they're actually the client.
Correct. In most cases, yes. There are a couple of examples where it's the opposite. So that it's going to be like a revenue share model. Like they have an audience, a huge audience, say like 36,000 businesses that they pull together for some offering that they already do. And
Got it.
then we kind of co-pitch. And then if the businesses sign up independently on their own and they pay, then there's a revenue split. But yes, in most cases, I would prefer for the joint venture partners to pay to be my client.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
if it's a revenue split, that's pretty straightforward. They go out to their mailing list or their audience. They say, check out Michael. Michael performs an event, or Michael does a call with them, or whatever it ends up being, and they get a revenue share. So that's straightforward. We'll put it
Yep.
to one side. Now,
Yep.
we have to look at this particular thing here that you mentioned on the other side. So the rev share is clear. The other side is you want somebody who already has 10 to 20 portfolio companies to be onboarded onto your stuff and then for them to pay.
Correct.
Okay. So the way to look at that then is not as a joint venture partner because they're not, right? They are
Okay.
actually the client. And I'll give you an easy way to understand this. When I was a kid, I saw an ad on TV, and the ad was Spider-Man had just come out, right? Yeah, Spider-Man had just come out. And
Okay.
this ad was for these like web shooters, right? And it was essentially silly string in a can that you would strap to your wrist and you would kind of flick your wrist back and it would shoot silly string everywhere. And as a
Yeah.
kid, you're going bananas for this, right? It's like awesome. You can actually be Spider-Man and shoot webs and everything's like great.
Yeah.
But I go to my parents and I'm like, hey, can you buy me this silly string Spider-Man thing? What do you think my
Right.
parents said?
Yeah. Absolutely not. Because who's cleaning up that
Absolutely.
mess?
Totally, right? Totally. And I was saying the
Right.
same thing to my kids. So it's funny
Right.
because um, who's the actual client? Is it the kid or is it the parent?
Yep.
You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
The actual client is the parent because it was very easy to convince you as the kid. Very easy, right? It was silly string. You could be Spider-Man. Spider-Man at the time was like the top grossing film of all time. But the decision maker is not the kid, it's the parent. So
Right.
what happens here is the way that you need to approach it is from a mindset shift of, okay, in this kind of analogy, the parent is the VC or the investment fund that has these 10 to 20 companies. What would make the offer irresistible for them? It's not a partnership, it's an offer.
Yeah.
And if we look at it just before you share, if we look at it in the context of the silly string Spider-Man, right? How could I make that offer irresistible for the parent? Right? Obviously, you've got to look at the objections. The parent is going to
Yep.
say, I have to clean this stuff up. It's silly string. It sticks to walls. How am I going to get rid of it? Da 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 da. So you'd have to address all those in order to get the parent to say yes. So in this case, we have to say, how would you make it irresistible to the investment fund or the VC? Make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. Right now, our offer back to them is the data we can provide them on how their companies are performing because our foundation is based on 13 years worth of science and research that's been validated through Gallup. So that's what we're offering back to them. But I see what you're saying, and I think there needs to be something a little more enticing besides just the data.
And there's a question I want you to remember, Michael, as well, right? And this is something which so many coaches fall into. Does that make that offer irresistible from your perspective or theirs?
Right.
Right? Because perception is everything. And if I perceive something to be irresistible, then it is irresistible. And very often, what happens is we as coaches, we are at the other side of this journey. So we think this is really important. Therefore, you have to see this as irresistible. But
Yeah.
they don't, right? They don't for whatever reason. So their perception is, yeah, data, cool, whatever, right? It may
Right.
be another aspect that you don't even imagine. And I'll give you a great example of this, right? Um, there's a friend of mine who's the founder of a company called High Level. And I've been talking with him because a lot of the moves that High Level made were like really, really genius. So I've been talking with him. And he said something to me which was very, very profound, right? He said everybody looks at these moves as if they were like genius moves, but they really weren't. We just spoke to the customer, and the customer said they wanted this, right? They wanted a white label, they wanted free sub accounts. So we just did it.
Right.
And it was like, it blew my mind. And so, what we did, Michael, in really defining an irresistible offer was I got on onboarding calls with clients and I just started speaking to them, right? And in that dialogue, they told me what was irresistible for them. And when they say they told me, I got their perception. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, in your case, I just want to bring it back for a moment. Is it you that's saying it was irresistible, or have you actually spoken to these people and they're saying it?
Yeah. No, I 100% hear what you're saying, and you're right on the nose with that because I haven't thought of the irresistible offer for the partner. We have the irresistible offer for the founders that we work with. That's, I mean, those deals are easy to close. We need an irresistible offer for the partner.
So, what you've done here, bringing it back to the Spider-Man analogy, is you've got the silly string for the kid, but the
Yeah.
parent is the one actually making the decision, right?
Right.
So,
Right. Yep.
here's what I'm gonna tell you, or advise you to do, man, is speak to some of these people that have those 10 to 20 clients and just listen.
Yep.
Ask them great questions,
Yeah.
and they will tell you exactly what they want in the offer. And they may not say it word for word, but read between the lines and you will see pattern after pattern after pattern. You speak to four of them, you will have your irresistible offer that will convert at crazy numbers.
Yeah. I like that approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Great
this
recommendation. I know
it,
exactly who I'm going to call too.
nice, nice. This stuff is, this stuff is so much simpler than people give it credit to. Just speak to people and they will tell you what they want. And it may not
Yeah.
say it directly, but if you're smart enough, you can understand between the lines of what they're really saying.
Yeah.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Great recommendation there. I
Good
appreciate
stuff.
that because I was always just thinking of it from the business owner standpoint. I mean, the results and the success we have for the businesses speaks for itself. So that in itself is the irresistible offer for the businesses, but the partners, I need something that's going to entice them a little bit more.
And don't think of it, just speak to them and they will
Yeah.
give you exactly what you need.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Michael, are there any
Perfect.
takeaways, any aha moments that you've had from the hot seat before we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about it. That irresistible offer for the partner is really where it's at because we have a lot of interest. There's definitely no lack of interest. It's just a matter of us figuring out what it is that those partners want and will benefit from working with us because they're not really paying us a ton of money to work with us. So that part's easy. But we need to do something to get them enticed to come across the finish line faster. So, and now I know what I need to do to figure out what that is.
All right, man. Let me know what comes up.
That's
And
it.
by the way, when you speak to them, be prepared to have your mind blown by what they say, because they will say something which you wouldn't even know to think about. And it will be
Yeah,
like, oh my God, it was so obvious. It was so in front of you, but you never even thought about it, until they
yeah,
mentioned it. So let me know how it works out.
that's great. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Michael. See you soon.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good one.